The day my family refused my grandfather's final wish, they thought they were saving time and money. They had no idea that one simple decision would reveal their true hearts and change their future forever. My name is Olivia Carter, and this is the story of the last promise I made to the man who raised me like his own daughter. My grandfather, Walter Carter, was 92 years old. He was the kind of person who never asked anyone for anything. For decades, he worked with his hands, built a successful construction business, and created a comfortable life for his family. But near the end of his life, everything changed. Doctors told us his heart was getting weaker. He didn't have much time left. While everyone else saw an old man who was fading away, I still saw the man who taught me how to ride a bicycle, who stayed awake helping me with school projects, and who always reminded me that family was more valuable than money. But my family started seeing something else. They saw his house, his savings, his investments. They started having conversations about his inheritance before he was even gone. My father, Richard, believed he deserved control of everything because he was his oldest son. My uncle Daniel believed he deserved an equal share. And slowly, my grandfather became less like a person to them and more like a problem they were waiting to solve. One afternoon, I visited Grandpa at his care facility. He was sitting beside the window, watching the rain fall outside. When he saw me, he smiled. "Olivia, you came." I sat beside him and held his hand. We talked about old memories. Then suddenly, he became quiet. "There's one thing I want to do before I leave this world." I looked at him. "Anything, Grandpa." He smiled softly. "I want to see the mountain cabin again." That cabin was special. He built it with my grandmother almost 50 years ago. It was where our family celebrated holidays, where we shared our happiest memories. "I just want to sit on that porch one more time," he whispered. "I want to hear the trees one last time." My heart broke. I immediately said yes. "We're going." That evening, I called the family. I expected them to support him. Instead, I heard excuses. My father said, "Olivia, that's a long drive. He's too weak." My uncle said, "That old cabin isn't even worth visiting anymore." My mother looked at me and said something I will never forget. "Your grandfather won't even remember the trip." Silence filled the room. I couldn't believe those words. Because they weren't worried about him. They were worried about being inconvenienced. Everyone canceled. Everyone had a reason. Work, meetings, plans. But I knew the truth. They simply didn't think his final memory mattered. The next morning, I made a decision. I rented a vehicle, packed his medicine, brought extra oxygen, and drove my grandfather to the mountains. When we left the city, something changed. The tired look in his eyes disappeared. He started smiling. He pointed at old roads and told stories from his younger days. For the first time in months, he looked alive again. When we finally reached the cabin, he became emotional. He touched the old wooden door. "This place remembers me," he whispered. We sat on the porch for hours. He told me stories I had never heard. Then he looked at me seriously. "Olivia, I need to tell you something." I turned toward him. "Your family thinks I don't understand what's happening." My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" He took out a small notebook from his jacket. "I know they've been discussing my money. I know they've been waiting for their inheritance. But what they don't know is that I was paying attention. Dates, names, financial records. My grandfather had been keeping track of everything." "They forgot one thing," he said. "Getting older doesn't mean becoming blind." That night, he recorded a message on my phone. He didn't sound angry. He sounded disappointed. "I don't want revenge," he said. "I only want the truth to be known." 3 weeks later, Grandpa passed away peacefully. The entire family gathered for the funeral. My father cried loudly. My uncle talked about how much he loved him. Everyone acted like they had been there every day. But I knew the truth. Then, the lawyer stood up. He held an envelope. "Your grandfather left specific instructions." Everyone became silent. The lawyer looked at the family. "Before we discuss the estate, there is a video message from Walter Carter." The lights went down. The screen turned on. And there was Grandpa, sitting on the porch of his old cabin, smiling. "I know some of you are surprised to see me here," he said. "But I want everyone to understand something. I was not forgotten because I was dying. I was forgotten because people thought I had nothing left to give." My father's face changed. My uncle looked uncomfortable. Grandpa continued. I watched carefully during my final months. I saw who visited me. I saw who cared about my happiness. And I saw who only cared about what they would receive after I was gone. Nobody spoke. Then came the final sentence. My estate will not go to the people who counted my days. It will go to the person who made my final days meaningful. The screen showed my name, Olivia Carter. My family sat there in complete shock. The house, the investments, the remaining assets, everything was placed under my responsibility. But Grandpa had one final request. The money was not meant to make me rich. It was meant to create a foundation helping elderly people who had been forgotten by their own families. Months later, I stood outside that same mountain cabin, the place where my grandfather spent his final happy day. I realized something. My family thought they were losing an inheritance, but they lost something much more important. They lost the love and trust of a man who only wanted to feel remembered. And I learned a lesson I will never forget. A person's value does not disappear when they become old. Sometimes the people who have the least time left have the most wisdom to give. And sometimes, one final wish can reveal everyone's true heart.